Happy Thursday, friends. This week's episode was recorded all in one go when I was at Xandi's house in Montgomery, Alabama, and I'm still there now. But during the course of the recording, I thought of a couple of things that I kind of wanted to say that didn't really seem like they fit with the rest, but it was something that I thought was some stuff that I thought was important to say. So I'm just going to do it here as kind of a forward to the show. So the whole reason I'm here in the first place is because we were doing an event called V to Shining V, which is a benefit for the Powerhouse, which is a house that's rented out next to an abortion clinic in Montgomery, Alabama. And the issue of abortion rights is one where my mind has been changed on the issue. I used to be the liberal atheist person that was like, I don't really know if I'm fully pro-choice or not. And this issue is one of the reasons why when people dismiss the efficacy of online arguments, I can raise my hand and say, hey, I had an online argument once that actually changed my mind. And it was about abortion rights. And it was a well-argued position by an online friend and watching a video of an atheist debate between a pro-choice atheist and Matt Dillahunty and an anti-choice atheist. And I don't remember the lady's name, but you can just look up atheist abortion debate on YouTube and you'll find the video. And my arguments surrounding abortion had always centered on, is this fetus a person or is it not? There's a gray line in between. Where do we draw that line? What does this all mean? And I had never considered the argument of bodily autonomy and what it means for a person to truly have control over their own body. And of course, the argument being there's nothing that I can do or that you can do to legally obligate your body to another person, regardless of the circumstances, even if their life depends on it. And abortion should be no different. So that's what changed my mind on abortion and made me 100% fully pro-choice and proud to be so. And you'll hear a speech from me later at some point, the speech that I gave at the event tonight, talking about some of the intersectionality between the abortion rights debate and the debate over access to transgender healthcare, and how so much of the debate surrounding transgender healthcare is about a trans person's right to do with their body as they see fit, and not to have medical and mental health professionals decide what we can and can't do for ourselves once it's demonstrated that, no, I'm not in the middle of a psychosis. I am 100% competent and able to make decisions for myself. Beyond that, it's my body and I should be able to do what I wish with it. So for that reason, the abortion rights debate, even though I'm not a person with a uterus and I don't ever have to worry about getting pregnant, I'll never need an abortion. That's the reason that this subject is still pretty personal to me. And then aside from that, some of the stories that you're going to hear in this episode about the absolutely contemptible things that some of these antis do when they're protesting abortion clinics. And, I'm still sort of up in the air as to whether this is a unique thing here in Alabama or if this is something that happens everywhere. I have to assume in other places in the South it's maybe the same, if not worse. So that's why this topic is super important to me, and it's something that I thought was worth doing the show on. So without further ado, let's get into the show.
Exclusively on Secular Media Network, this is the Gaytheist Manifesto.
Hello and welcome to the Atheist Manifesto, your source for news, commentary, discussion, and debate at the intersection of the atheist movement and the LGBT rights movement. I'm your host, Callie Wright, and I am quasi-live from Montgomery, Alabama, from Sandy's guest bedroom. Today I had the honor and the pleasure of attending an event called V to Shining V in Montgomery, Alabama, which was basically a celebration of women and of reproductive freedom, and had the pleasure of seeing Nick Morganmore perform and talking with him and meeting him for the first time and giving him lots of hugs. And I also had the privilege of meeting a totally badass young lady by the name of Caity Taylor. Caity blogs for Lady Parts Justice. She is 16 years old and way more badass than any of us ever were at 16. Caity, welcome to the Atheist Manifesto.
Hi. I'm so happy to be here.
So, just tell me what you do, because it's awesome.
Well, I kind of just go to school and I observe things that are terrible. And then I write about them. And
we have dogs helping. So you see things at school that are awful and you write about them.
Pretty much. I volunteer at the clinic here, and I work with a lot of groups and help. I try to make the world a better place.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what do you do when you say you volunteer at the clinic? What do you actually do?
I help escort the women into the clinic so that boys don't make me drive into buildings or anything. That's pretty, because that's happened before.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, tell me that story, because I was kind of shocked when I walked in. I saw that there was damage to the building, and I was just thinking like, oh, maybe is it an old house and like the foundation shifted or something like that?
Yeah.
I figured out that wasn't the case. So tell me that story.
Okay. Well, basically, there's this guy that comes out here, and he's there like every single day. And basically, he sits there and he screams at people, and he was, like, especially bad towards her. And he was, like, at her car, and she lost it, and she accidentally drove into the building.
So she was trying to get out of the parking lot, and she just, like, she put her car in the wrong gear and drove into the building because she was so distraught. Because this guy he comes to the clinic to protest, I'm guessing,
yes.
Right?
And from what I understand, she had 2 children in her back seat. So, I mean, they say they're pro-life until when they're really pro-birth.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. So, you sent me this blog article, and I'm ashamed to say I haven't had the chance to read it yet, but it's about sex education in Alabama schools. So talk to me about that for a second, because first of all, I think that's an amazing thing for a 16-year-old to be thinking like, hey, this is an important thing to happen. That's a very forward thinking, where most of us are looking backwards thinking like, wow, we wish we had this better.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm not sure if it's this way for all of Alabama schools, but where I am, I go to like a backwoods, like in the middle of nowhere town. Like the only places we have are the Dollar General, a gas station, and then the high school. That's all of it. And the teacher, we don't have health. We have health. We don't have sex ed. We have, like, a health class. And it's not even really a health class. Like, he took all of our desks out and he replaced them with ping pong tables. And if you haven't had a chance to read my article, because I'm not sure if you guys are even interested in, like, reading things.
No, I'm going to put the link in the show notes.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but basically what happened was that he told us that if you get drunk and you're raped, then it's your fault. And that men can't get raped, but they can get their wallet stolen or something.
Which is just as bad, right? Like, that's totally, like, a morally equivalent situation. God.
Yeah. So, I kind of, like, lost my shit, and I couldn't even really speak. I lost my shit so badly, like, I could feel my blood pressure rising to the point where I just stood up and left. And it was just... I mean, that's one of the worst experiences I've had, but it's not the only one, and it's not going to stop until someone says something or does something. And even then, it's not guaranteed to change, but I mean, I'm going to continue to be on the front lines until something happens.
God, that's so badass. So, I mean, how does that go over at school? Like, are you one of the only kids who's like really like pushing this kind of thing, or is there like a good contingent, or like how does that work?
Well, I mean, there's a group of us that believes virtually the same thing, but I'm the only one that actually speaks out, and the members of that group aren't very. They're supportive, but at the same time, they're not. Like, they're supportive in some ways, but then they'll send me, like, anti-feminist memes and be like, you know, whatever. And, I mean, I don't really care about the memes. It's just that, you know, I'll try to start stuff with me because I'm actually doing something.
Because it's easier to sit on the sidelines and criticize people who are involved without, you know, because if you get involved and you fail, then everyone can, why do you even try? Like, it's way easier to do that than to actually put skin in the game.
Exactly.
I mean, do you feel like it's like that's the reason they do that, or are they afraid, or like what it is? Because you say, I mean, they generally speaking, they share the same kind of views you do as far as like, you know, good sex ed and you know, women's rights and, you know, pro-choice stance and stuff like that. So like, are they afraid, or like what do you think that is?
I mean, I honestly don't know. Like, I think that maybe they just don't care enough. Like, I think that, because they don't see it the way that I do. They don't go to the clinic every day, or not like every day, but they don't go to the clinic like every week to escort and see all the shit that I see. Mm-hmm. They haven't been like on the front lines like I have.
So it's kind of like an abstract situation for them. It's like stuff that happens in this other time and place that's not super like real to them yet.
Yeah. I don't think they see that our rights are slowly being taken away quite yet, even though I tried to explain it to them, but I don't really think that they'll really understand it until they see it for themselves. And by that time, it might be too late, so... I mean, I don't know. I don't really think it's going to be... I don't think it's ever going to be too late, but I think that by the time they'll have us all in burqas. Like,
right.
That's...
Well, but it can't be those because Muslims are bad, right?
Yeah.
Because the only thing worse than a feminist is a Muslim. So I mean, what about teachers? I mean, do you get pushback from teachers when you try and talk about this stuff? Or?
Oh, don't. So.
Oh, I'm gonna get started. That's what we're talking about, hun.
One of my English teacher, I have AP English. Like, it's like high up English.
Which is like another notch on the badass belt.
Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, I have AP English, and one of the words we had to learn was androgynous. And so I'm just like, oh yay, androgynous. I'm so, like, I was genuinely excited that we were actually learning that word. Mm-hmm. And so I get it, and I looked up the word and everything, and we go to class, and we're talking about, like, sentences that people wrote, because they had to write sentences with all of our words. And everyone was like, almost every, well, not every single person, but every single person that had their hand raised or anything was talking about Caitlyn Jenner and how she's androgynous. And I was just like, no, she's not androgynous because her gender is set. And then people would be like... And then this girl turns around, and she sits like 2 seats away from me, and she turns around, and she just starts screaming at me. And she's all like, he has sperm in his body, he's a man. She starts screaming at me, and I just kind of, and I'm just like, what? I'm like, she's trying to portray, like, whether you see it or not, I mean, her identity is female. I mean, I don't think that she gives a shit what you see. She is a female. And I'm just like, if I looked at you and said, you look like a man, you're a man. I'm like, you're androgynous because you look like a man. That doesn't, you know, that doesn't make you androgynous just because, I don't know. I mean, you can't determine who is transgender and who's androgynous and who's not. Like, that's up for that person to come out and say, or, you know. And then, so after we looked up the word and everything, my teacher is just like, well, that's your opinion. And I'm like, I'm like, okay, that's what I'm gonna write on the test. Like, it's gonna be this is an opinion question on every single answer. Let's see how that gets me. It just, I don't know. That's just one example, and it's one that, it's just, I don't know. There's that, and then there's the health teacher that wasn't even a health teacher. A bunch of our teachers are coaches. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, a couple of them are really, really good teachers, but most of them are not. And most of them just...
So they're coaches first, and they're teachers second?
Yeah.
So that's the proper arrangement for that.
Yeah. My 9th grade year, I had I had a history teacher that was really, really good. But then every year after that, they just kind of like got lower and lower. And now I'm just like, what are you even doing? Like, you're not even in the classroom for the first 15 minutes. And then you're like, I'm going to give you a test, and it's not even going to be like my test. I'm just going to get it off the internet, and you're going to be able to look up the answers on the internet and get them right. But like, we found the worksheet templates and everything on the internet. Like, he just like pulled it up on the first things of like freaking a Google image search.
Like, didn't even bother trying to like change a couple of things.
No. Oh, and during one of our things, it was General Custer and the Native American things when like they first came over here and like destroyed all the Native American culture and killed them all. It was every single day that it said custard instead of custard. And I raised my hand and I was just like politely like, hey, sir, I think that's supposed to be custard because, whatever. And I pulled it up in the book and I'm like, oh yeah, it's supposed to be custard because I was like trying to be nice because I didn't even really know him at that point. Mm-hmm. Like, I was trying to be nice and respectful and stuff because I didn't really want to. He's like, I don't think it really matters. As long as you get the information. And I'm like, that is the information. Like, and then on the test it said General Custard. And I was just like and then on the last one we did, it said, instead of the Great Strike, it said the Great Streak of 1877.
Those are two very, very different concepts.
I was just like, people were just walking down the street, like, pulling their clothes off, like, this is restricting me.
I mean, I think that would have been a happier occasion, maybe.
It's just, it's constant, and
we laugh about this, but this is where we're talking about kids being taught in school here.
I'm not learning anything. Like, I mean, I am learning a little bit of stuff, but that's just stuff that I actually, like, read myself in the book. Right. It's not stuff, like, they don't teach me anything. And
once you've graduated from high school, you're gonna have a very comprehensive list of things not to do and things not to be. So like you've at least knocked some stuff off the list there.
I'm in like all honors and AP classes, and I still don't learn a thing.
Wow. Oh man. And if this isn't cool to talk about, stop me. But what about your parents? How do your parents feel about the activism and stuff that you do?
Well, my mom is very supportive. My dad is supportive, but he's also extremely passive, and he doesn't really, like speak out or anything. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that he would ever try to. I'm go against the crowd unless it was like a passive aggressive type deal, which is okay. Like, it's cool, but I don't know. The first vlog that I did, he said that he agreed with all of it and that he loved it and that he liked everything about it. But he was like, I didn't like that you cussed so much. And I'm just like, did you not get that I was like very, very angry?
Well, isn't that frustrating too? Because you're thinking like you've made all of these great points and you're expressing like you're legitimately angry about a thing that you should be legitimately angry about, and like you've said all of these things, and like what people get out of it is, well, you cussed a lot.
Yeah, and that's
not the most frustrating thing.
I had one teacher. It was my 9th grade. It was an English teacher, and I was passing notes with my friend. And I shouldn't have been passing notes with my friend. Like, if she had gotten on to me for passing notes with my friend, that would have been one thing. But she looked at it, and she saw that I had cussed on it, and she told me it wasn't very ladylike, and that I shouldn't do that. And I was just kind of like, okay, it's
Barf.
okay to get... And I'm just like, it's your job to stop me from passing notes. And I'm like, it's also your job, as ridiculous as I think it is, to stop me from cussing. But... you're gonna say that's not very ladylike. Like, that's not even remotely what I was going for. If you could just, I'm just kind of like, so it would be okay for, I don't know. It just, I like, it would be okay for a man to say it, like, but I'm like, are you essentially telling me that I'm never gonna get a man if I keep cussing?
Well, right. It's something like,
yeah.
if a guy was doing it, they might roll their eyes a little bit and like kind of wag their finger, like, don't do that now. But like when you do it, it's like you're breaking some moral code. Like you can't be a lady if you say F a lot. Like, God, that's dumb.
I'm just like, we have more reason to say that a lot. Like,
so what's some other stuff you've blogged about? I mean, we talked earlier about the sex ed article that you do, and you blog for Lady Parts Justice, which if anybody doesn't know, I mean that organization's a big deal. So like it's pretty badass that you're blogging for them first of all. But so like what other kind of stuff have you talked about in your blog?
I haven't talked about too much yet. I've only had two articles out, like, okay, as of current.
What was the other one that you did?
The first one was just kind of like an introduction type deal, and I talked about like my advocacy and stuff like that. Then the second one was about sex ed, as we've talked about. But I plan on talking about like the dress code and stuff a little bit more because I went into that and the second one, but I didn't really go into detail with it. Yeah, and I want to.
So talk about that for a second. What's the dress code like at your school?
We're not allowed to show our collarbones, or we can't have anything below our collarbone.
Wow.
And
like turtlenecks and long pants.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And we're not allowed to wear athletic shorts in PE. Like the girls are not allowed to wear typical athletic shorts, like on the Nike shorts and stuff like that. We're not allowed to wear them in PE.
What the hell are you supposed to wear?
I don't even know. I don't have PE anymore.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
But I just know that that's now a rule in the handbook, and that we've had like 3 seminars on it. Like, you're not allowed to wear athletic shorts in PE because it makes Coach Brown uncomfortable. And I'm just like, that's like a 50-year-old.
That sounds like a Coach Brown problem.
Man. Yeah, I'm just like, that's like a 50-year-old married man. If he's like concerned with girls' legs and he has some problems, he does not need to be teaching. It's like he needs to get out.
I am like a hypersexual person, and it would not occur to me to look at a 15 or 16-year-old person of any gender and think like, what can I think of sexual about that person? Like, that thought just does not even occur to me.
Yeah. I mean, and why should we have to dress ourselves in a way so that the boys won't look at us? Like, why can't they just not be like massive douchebags and just not touch us and not mess with us? Like, why can't they just like mind their own business? Why can't we teach them to keep their hands to themselves instead of teaching us to cover up everything that might somewhat arouse them?
Well, yeah. So like, is there even a dress code for the boys at your school? Do you know?
Kinda. I mean, they're not allowed to wear pants to their ankles, but that's like it.
Wait,
they're not allowed to wear like saggy pants.
Oh, okay.
But that's it, pretty much.
Huh.
Like,
yeah, well, 'cause I heard, I think it was on Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, one of their daughters brought home the dress code for their homecoming dance, and it was like literally like 3 pages of rules about what girls can't wear, and there was literally nothing pertaining to what boys could wear.
Yeah, the Skeptic guys are on the Skeptic Guide to the Universe is really good. Like, I've followed them.
That show.
Yeah, I have one of their shirts. It's like the fighting robot dinosaurs or whatever.
Yes.
That I got at Dragon Con.
That's awesome.
But, yeah, I wear the shirt like every time we have like a spirit day or anything like that. I wear that shirt. It's one of my favorites.
Oh, God. You might as well just be walking around the school all day with your middle finger in the air.
I mean, I kind of do that.
Which is fantastic. But I fully back that.
But, yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just constant crap that I have, you know. I mean, I try my best to do stuff about it, but there's not really much I can do because they're all just gonna like keep being whatever they are.
Well, yeah, because you're just the dumb kid. What do you know, right?
Yeah,
like that kind of thing.
Exactly. But I mean, I don't know. I don't really want to give my teachers grief because they can completely fail me, and the teachers can, and everyone else can back them completely failing me.
Right.
So,
which they probably would, because that's just how that crap works.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I want to make, or I want to form a secular alliance at my school.
Oh,
but
yes. High five.
we need a teacher to back it, though. And I was thinking, there's a couple teachers that I was thinking of, but there was one that we played the Cosmos in his class. And we were sitting there, and he walks in front of the class as we're watching the Cosmos. Because it was like an extra class we could take. It was, or I have a class, but I chose that one as my Bulldog, which is like an extra period. It's like an hour and a half where you sit and do nothing, basically, but you can they're like, okay, we're not going to just sit here and do nothing because the board says we can't do that anymore because people are just leaving. So now we're actually going to do something, and by do something I mean still do nothing, but make it look like we're still doing something. So you pick what your Bulldog is going to be, and then you kind of do that thing. So we were watching the Cosmos, and we were in there, and he walks in front of the class, and he goes, "If you don't think evolution happened, you're an idiot. You shouldn't be in this class." And so he was talking about it, and he's like, you see it every single day. And he went on this huge tangent about how evolution was a thing. And people got up and left, and he was like, okay, bye. And
so this is one of the teachers you've identified might back the Secular Student Alliance thing.
I mean, he might, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, well, because in fairness to them, as much as it sucks, that's a pretty big risk for them too. For their careers and for social stuff, which is that's a whole nother level of suck.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking too. Then
have you been in contact with the Secular Student Alliance folks?
Not yet. We wanted to find a teacher that we knew would back it, I think.
Because I know a couple of people I can try and put you in touch with. So
cool. I'll get on that. But we've been trying to do it since last year, and we've been trying to weed out the teachers because we know that as soon as we ask the teacher, then it's gonna get all over everything.
Right.
We ask that teacher,
especially when if you happen to ask the wrong teacher and it gets around.
So we're kind of trying to just pick who we want before, and then if that doesn't work, then we have a couple backups. So we're just kind of, I don't know how to explain it. We're kind of easing our way in because, they have a Christian group.
Well, of course they do.
Yeah, which I don't mind them having a Christian group. They just need to have equal representation. I feel like,
of course,
because they can't just and. I would not have a single problem with the Christian group if they did it on their own, but they don't do it on their own. Yeah. They go out in the middle of the
full
courtyard.
Backing from the school and stuff, I'm sure.
They go out in the courtyard, or there was on the National Day of Prayer or whatever last year. They went out in the courtyard, surrounded it, holding hands, and handed us little cupcakes after they prayed over them for 15 minutes.
They blessed the cupcakes.
They handed them to us, and it was and it said praying for you on a little stick thing. A stick thing. It was a toothpick. But it was, I don't know why I said stick thing. But I use it as stick things. I wave it around.
Right.
But, so we all have little cupcakes. I'm well, eat your cupcakes, but that doesn't mean we're gonna follow you.
So here's a question. It's probably a dumb question, but I have to ask. Is there a gay straight alliance at your school?
I wish. I really, really wish, but no. I mean,
that'd probably be an even tougher road than the Secular Student Alliance, probably, right?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that at that school, the term atheist is worse than gay, which none of them should even be bad, obviously.
Well, right, and that's something I've run into. I mean,
yeah.
There's a friend of the show, Hugh-Man, the reason that he uses an anonymous online identity, most of his family knows he's gay and does not care. But if they found out he was atheist, that would be a problem. Yeah,
that's pretty much my house too. Well, my dad knows that I'm not religious, He's known for years.
Yeah, but that's way different than being an atheist. Like,
yeah. Well, yeah. He knows that I'm not religious, and he cried and said he failed at raising me when I told him, which was hard because I love my dad and I know that he wants the best. Like, he's not. Right. He's not a terrible person.
Well, he's a victim of his indoctrination, just the same as anybody else. Yeah.
He's a really, really good dad. Mm-hmm. Like, so I'm not going to say anything bad about my dad. Yeah. Because he's great and I love him. Mm. But I told him I was bisexual and he was like, "Is that all? Like, you wanted to come out here and talk to me, and like you scared me to tell me you were bisexual. Like, what?" I'm like, "Is that all? Like, I thought it was going to be bad." And I don't know where my stepmother really like fits on that. Like, I know that she would accept me for whatever, but I don't think I'm not sure if she even knows that I'm not religious. I mean, if she listens to the podcast, she knows now. But I'm pretty sure that she does know, but I don't really know if she knows.
Yeah. Some people it becomes like that unspoken, like open secret kind of thing.
Yeah. So we've never talked about it. My dad will say, like, "Have you thought any more about God?" And I'll be like, "No." And he'll be like,
"I think about it all the time and how little sense it makes."
But that's, I don't know. Yeah.
So do you have... Oh, sorry, go ahead. If you had something else to say.
I don't know. Like, my dad is really supportive of everything.
That's awesome.
And I love my dad.
Yeah.
But
Well, he obviously did a good job.
Oh, thank you.
Like, obviously did a good job. Do you know the link to your blog off the top of your head?
Not exactly.
I don't know if it has its own URL or whatever, but that's okay. I'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah, it's a Lady Parts Justice League. It's not just Lady Parts Justice.
Okay.
It takes a while to get to like the league part.
Right.
But it's like Lady Parts Justice League, and that's the actual website. And you scroll down, and right now it's the second one in the little thing. Yeah. Because the V to Shining V thing is the top one. But there's probably gonna be a couple more, but that's just
awesome. Well, you are a hardcore badass.
Thank you.
And I am super, super proud to call you my friend now. And keep up the good work. Keep being awesome. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
We're gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back on the Gaytheist Manifesto.
Here's an excerpt from Nailed by David Fitzgerald.
Didn't there have to have been a Jesus? Perhaps he was just a wandering teacher or an exorcist, an apocalyptic prophet or a zealot who opposed the Romans. Perhaps he was all these things, or even a composite of several such early first-century figures. But at any rate, surely there had to be somebody at the original core of Christianity, arguably the most famous individual in human history. All this seems to be a perfectly reasonable, completely natural assumption to make, so why would anyone be so foolish as to propose that Jesus never existed? Doesn't it just make more sense to assume that there was a historical Jesus, even if we're unable to recover the real facts about his life and death? As it turns out, no. The opposite is true. The closer we look at the evidence for Jesus, the less solid evidence we find, and the more we find suspicious silences and curious resemblances to the pagan and Jewish religious ideas and philosophies that preceded Christianity. And once you begin to parse out the origins of this tradition or that teaching from their various sources, the sweater begins unraveling quickly until it becomes very difficult to buy that there ever was, or even could have been, any historical figure at the center.
Nailed by David Fitzgerald is now available at atheistaudiobooks.com.
Before we jump back into the show, it's time to thank our patrons. Thank you so much for believing in us enough to contribute to us financially and for being a part of this movement. Patrons of the Gaytheist Manifesto have access to all sorts of cool stuff, like a big shout out on the show, premium content, including an audio journal I've decided to keep documenting the more personal stuff I don't dive into on the show, and an exclusive patrons-only hangout once a month. If you're so inclined, head over to patreon.com/The Gaytheist Manifesto to become a part of this movement and support the show. Thank you. Welcome back to the Gaytheist Manifesto. We are quasi-live here in Montgomery, Alabama, and now we have Xandi. Hi, Xandi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fabulous.
So, talk to me about the event tonight.
So, V to Shining V was an event started last year by Lady Parts Justice, which was founded by Liz Winstead, who was co-creator of The Daily Show. She's kind of a badass.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome. She actually came down to our clinic in July when OSA, which is Operation Save America,
which is the hardcore, like, radical, terroristic, anti-abortion group, right?
They're on some terrorist watch lists, and they're also on SPLC's list of domestic terrorists.
That's the Southern Poverty Law Center, yeah.
And so Liz Winstead, live in the flesh, came down to be one of us, to be a clinic defender at our clinic. And
can you clarify exactly what a clinic defender does?
Yeah, clinic defenders. We escort people into the clinic. We shouldn't be necessary, really. But right. People are still pissed off.
None of this should be necessary,
right,
really.
Right. This podcast should not be required. Right. So people are pissed off that abortion is legal, and that abortion is healthcare, and that abortion is totally fine, and that we don't need to explain it, and that women have rights to their own bodies, and, I can go on and on. But, so they stand outside, they show up before I'm even dressed in the morning, and they're there when we get there. I need to get up earlier. But they're always there. Yeah, they're always there at 5 o'clock in the morning or whenever.
Well, what time does the clinic open?
About 6. Well, actually 8. They open at 8, but they start letting patients in a little bit before that.
Gotcha,
so,
okay.
And the reason, and this is so sucky, because those protesters are there at 5 a.m. every morning, we start letting patients in at 5 a.m. so that they can all, and we require them to come in first thing in the morning, and everyone has to be in within a couple hours of that 5 a.m. door opening, because regardless of what time their appointment for their procedure is, they all have to be inside so we can lock the door so that the protesters and nothing bad happens. But the protesters stand out there all day long, and they
and is this literally a daily thing? Like, there are protesters out there basically every day?
They are there every day, but we escort women in on abortion days, which is about once a week. We just don't have enough volunteers to be out there every single day. Hopefully, now that Nick's here, so he's gonna go out there. He's gonna occasionally dress up as Jesus' choice.
Oh my God, that's amazing!
And be a distraction for the protesters. So
there's blasphemy and abortion, and I don't know which to hate more.
Yeah. So typically what a clinic defender does is we hold an umbrella. We wear a vest, thanks to the Clinic Vest Project. We have vests that are free delivered to the clinic that say pro-choice clinic defender, so that patients
they know. Yeah, they
know when we walk up to their car that we're not there to harass them. We're there to help them. And then we'll hold an umbrella to block, mostly just to block the protesters from taking videos and photos of the patients and violating their confidentiality and their privacy, and get them in the door. But lately, because we have the house next door, which our V to Shining V was a fundraiser to pay the rent for the house next door, which we're calling the Powerhouse. which stands
Which is
for
an awesome place.
Yeah, it stands for People Organizing for Women's Empowerment and Rights. And we rented this house because it went up for rent around the time that OSA was coming here with all of their people from all over the country to harass our clinic. They tried to rent this building because it went up for rent around the time they were trying to come. And it is a few steps from... it borders the property line of the clinic. You can stand behind the building or right on the back porch of that building and see into the back parking lot. You can see the back door where our abortion doctor comes in and out. It's not safe for them to have access to that building. So we rented it. Our clinic owner rented it out of her own pocket just as a security measure. Eventually, we hope that it can serve as maybe a shelter for women who are waiting the 48-hour mandatory waiting period, or...
So when a woman comes in and needs an abortion, she has to wait, like, she has to be seen by a doctor and then wait 48 hours?
No, she has to be seen by a counselor, who is literally anyone employed by the clinic, who tells her that there are other options. And there's a mandatory book, and I know this because I've had an abortion at this clinic. They give you a book, and they hate to do it, but they're required to do it.
Right.
They give you a book that
They'd
tells
lose
you...
their operating license probably if they didn't do it.
Yeah, it tells you, hey, you know that you don't have to have an abortion? Basically. Here are some other places you can go that are going to preach to you about God and try to talk you into not having an abortion. Just wanted you to know that this shit exists, because... if we didn't tell you, you obviously didn't know that abortion wasn't your only option.
Right, because that's obviously like, hey, I'm pregnant. I guess abortion's the only thing that I can do, huh? Like, as if, like...
Yeah, like, there's no one that gets pregnant and says, wait, I've been planning this. Hold on. No. So, they have to give you all of that stupid literature that the state requires. And so the powerhouse exists to be not just a buffer zone, and not just to prevent the anti-abortion crazies from renting it. So it's not just security, but it's also a distraction. So when we're doing our clinic defense thing and walking people in, I've gotten in the bad habit of engaging with them just the tiniest little bit, so that they want to scream at me and tell me that I'm the devil and that I'm worshiping Satan and all of this. And as I've just barely hooked them by my one or two sentences, I've said, I'll walk next door to the powerhouse and sit on the front porch and just cross my arms and be completely silent as they sit there and scream at me, because I've accomplished my goal at that point. They've walked away from what they're trying to do.
They're yelling at you instead of someone who's,
And now the people who are having a terrible day can walk into the clinic in peace while I sit there and take all of the heat of, you have a dykey haircut, you're fat, no man's ever gonna want you, you're worshiping the devil. And I'm just, whatever, and I put in my earbuds and I sometimes I mute the music to listen to them for a couple of seconds, but most of the time I don't hear a single word they say. And they're so stupid that they will follow me wherever I walk just to tell me how much they hate me, and not realize that I have completely won in that situation.
Christ's love in action. I tell you what. God.
They even told they told a woman, so this is how the powerhouse comes in handy. You can't bring children into the waiting room. So sometimes it happens where someone forgot or didn't realize that was a rule. And this couple came last week, and they brought their toddler with them. And it's 5:00 in the morning, and this kid is sleepy. And so we're like, go to the powerhouse. There's a guest bedroom in there, and they put the kid down for back to sleep and put him down for a nap. And they were hanging out in the powerhouse, and the woman walked outside with me to sit on the front porch, and the protesters came next door, came to where we were, and started yelling at her that we see that you have a kid, and you might as well drown him, because you're a murderer anyway for having an abortion. And Caity and I were both talking to her when he said this. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to listen to you. And I said, don't apologize. You know, we were only talking to her to distract her from what we could hear him saying. And she's like, I have to go inside. And so she goes inside, and that is awful. Let me just point out, nobody should ever have to listen to that. That's just complete bullshit. Like, no one should be forced to endure that to go to any healthcare appointment. That's not, if there was such a thing as Christian love, that is definitely not it.
Yeah.
But the funniest thing was when she walked inside and she tells her partner what just happened, because you could see on her face that she was shaken up. He gets really angry and he says, where is he? And he's just shaking. He looks so mad. And he goes, I'm going out there. And she goes, no, wait. And she tries to grab him, but he keeps walking and he throws the front door open. And I'm thinking, oh my God, he's going to go punch him in the face, which I would love to see that, but
right.
No.
Yeah. That would make things worse.
It
Decidedly.
Would just add to their persecution complex. So he throws the door open and I hear him from inside. He says, she's having an abortion because she had sex with the devil and it's a demon and we're getting the demon out of her. And he throws the door shut behind him and comes back in and he's like, that was so funny. You should have seen his face. Yeah, so.
Oh, God, that's amazing.
Terrible. So, I mean, they suck. It's normally just a handful of people, but they say the most vile and horrible things to the patients and their companions, and it's just, I love when a patient can, or a client or their companion can just deal with it and say something funny like that to throw them off, but at the same time, no one should ever just have to deal with that at all.
Right, so. You shouldn't have to be in the position where that's a thing that you have to like try to do.
Yeah.
So what's your impression? Like, is it especially bad here, or is it like that everywhere?
I haven't been everywhere. This is all that I know. So I kind of thought that this was normal and that this was what everyone did everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I've heard stories from other people that this is definitely not normal. So yeah, it's kind of why I've been doing the Exodus Girls thing. Is I'd love to live somewhere where this wasn't normal, but this is normal for here. And as long as this is going on here and it's accepted as normal, I'm going to keep telling people that you don't have to accept it as normal. Keep screaming at the top of your lungs and helping it dissipate, because it shouldn't be a thing that happens at all. So,
yeah. Do you feel like a sort of inner struggle, as in like, I feel like I have to be here because this is where the fight is, but like, I really don't want to deal with this crap anymore and I'd love to live somewhere else. Like,
definitely. Like, there's like two sides of me, and I'm always, so my grandma and I, we kind of have the exact same personality, and her name's Xandi as well. But we had this talk where I was like, what would I do with my life if I didn't have shit to bitch about? And she was like, yeah, So, I mean, as much as I would love to be somewhere else, I feel like my life would lose a little bit of meaning if I left a cause and it didn't reach its potential. Mm-hmm. So I'm here until I make things better. And if I do leave, I'll still keep blogging and talking about it and making it public. But yeah, it's kind of an inner struggle. It's kind of, I guess I need a vacation once in a while just to... Right.
Self-care.
Yeah, to see other things. But if I just up and left right now, I think I would feel so terrible for all the people I'm leaving behind that don't have a voice, because there are so many people who want to do what I do, but they fear repercussions from their workplace or their school or what have you. And I just happen to be lucky enough that I have one of those jobs where my boss appreciates what I do. If I come in an hour and a half late, but I have a cool story about how I told some abortion protester that he was a dumbass, then that's okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, as long as I have that ability, I'm going to use it to try and make people's lives a little bit easier. Alabama is basically the armpit of America, which Nick Morganmore thinks is sexy because he likes armpits, but
Weird. We're gonna talk about that later, because that's something that we got to bring up.
but yeah, it's there's the most normal things that you would think everyone has, moved past even arguing about that. No, I'm still going to protests and making signs to try and inform people. And why? Why is that necessary? Why do people think that Kim Davis is a hero? I don't know.
Because you're an evil little thing. Wasn't that what somebody said to you once when you were protesting? They called you an evil little thing?
Agent of Death, I think, was the thing.
Oh,
and then,
yeah.
Wicked Agent of Death. Yes, Wicked Agent of Death. And also Devil Worshipper. Which, to that I replied, why do you think I'm a devil worshipper? And he says, you wouldn't be listening to this Marilyn Manson if you weren't a devil worshipper. And I said, ignoring the fact that it was actually 9 Inch Nails that was playing, I said...
You get that shit straight, first of all.
I completely ignored that, and I replied, really? Tell me where he said that he's worshiping Satan. What did he say about the devil? I didn't realize. And he said, well, I can't understand him. And I said, exactly.
But that's precisely why it's the devil.
That's why
yeah.
It's the devil, because you can't understand what he's saying. And I said, do you want to know what Marilyn Manson said 2 songs ago when Marilyn Manson actually was playing on my radio? He said, Christians are stupid. That's the short version. And he just...
Which, I feel like that's a sentiment you can find, every flavor of Christian will say that about other Christians. Like the conservative ones are like, yeah, most Christians are too liberal, and they're not true Christians. Or, the liberal ones are like, well, yeah, most Christians are too conservative, and that's just, not what Jesus is about.
Yeah. I think the people that should be most pissed off about... so the protesters... I think they've forfeited their right to anonymity based on what they do.
I could not agree more.
Their names are David Day and Daniel something.
I can find it.
Something that starts with an F. I don't know. So David and... I don't know. We just call them D&D, Dumb and Dumber.
Right,
whatever.
Yeah.
So David Day, though, he's the worst one. Please go troll him. His Twitter is @SoAllMayKnowHim. And his name is David Day, and he will post photos and videos of me holding my umbrella and telling him that he's an idiot. And actually, Daniel, I wish I could remember his last name. I don't know if he's even on Twitter, but Daniel came up to me with his phone on video, and he says, hey, everybody, this is Sandy. And I said... oh, okay. And I pulled out my phone and put it on record and put it in his face. And I said, hey, everybody, this is Daniel. And we're standing there with phones facing each other on opposite sides of clinic property.
Locked in epic online battle.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is Daniel. He can't come to my side of the line, legally. So I go, this is Daniel. And he thinks that videotaping people, because they'll videotape patients. And that could... actually put someone's life in danger.
Absolutely.
But that's another story. I go, this is Daniel, and he thinks that videotaping people is intimidating, but I'm not intimidated. Hi, everybody. And I just waved into his camera, and he says, he's like, ha, that's funny. Daniel Valerie, as if it's one word. French. That's his name. Thank you, Caity. So I go, I'm not intimidated. I wave at his camera, and I go, yeah, what they're doing out here is frickin' ridiculous. And then I go, no, wait, it's effing ridiculous. I can say that. Freedom of speech, guys. And we're phones locked in on each other, videotaping each other's faces. And he goes, that evil tongue's gonna burn in hell with the rest of you. And I said, hell's not a real place. And also, the Bible never said, thou shalt not say, and I said the F word. And he's like, ugh. And this other woman goes, people want babies. You shouldn't have abortion. Other people want babies. And I went from laughing to completely livid. And I said, the fact that you or anyone else wants a child does not mean that I'm required to carry it for you. And Caity and I were standing kind of next to each other, and we had the umbrellas, and we like closed them like they were a curtain. Like, you can't see us. We're done with this conversation. Like, it's
Good
over.
day, sir. Oh, man.
They attack her, though. I don't know if she told you, but they will not come at guys. They won't come to guys and try to attack them, tell them that they're going to hell, or any kind of insults that they hurl at women. They won't. They'll say, hey, how are you doing? And they'll shake their hand and try to start a conversation. But if it's a woman, you're a dirty whore, the devil's got his hands on you, you're going to hell, you're a murderer, whatever. And Caity, because she's a female, and B, young, they come up to her and just lock in and just attack. And because her mother protests and does clinic escort with her, they'll lock in on this, there's a mother and daughter here, and that's a weakness. And so
because someone who actually chose to have a child is my God.
It's only funny because I'm drinking right
right
now.
Yeah, I
but
hear you.
When you're there in it, it's like,
yeah.
Well, then it becomes funny when you can go over to your car, which is parked at the house next door, and crank on Marilyn Manson or 9 Inch Nails, which they might think is Marilyn Manson,
right? Yeah,
and distract them, and then
all
it's funny.
All of that devil, that devil noise.
Yeah, but it's not funny. It's disgusting, and it's why can our they for the longest time would try to plan it to where there was always a guy on clinic escort duty. There was always one guy every clinic day, and we don't really do that anymore, but it's pathetic that that's necessary, that there has to be a guy that if they need to speak, if the protesters need to speak to someone, there's someone that they feel like they're allowed to talk to. Let me not throw stuff, but
yeah.
Like, no, I've tried to talk to them, and they no, let's just hurl insults, and I can't even repeat the things that they've said to me because it would ruin your rating. It's they say the most vile and disgusting things that you would never expect to come out of someone's mouth who is trying to I don't know. I assume that their objective is to win people to Jesus, but what I've seen from their behavior makes me think that their religion and that their God and everything about what they stand for is so wrong. I hope that those aren't the only representatives that Christians have.
Yeah.
The people who should be most pissed off about what they're doing are the Christians who aren't bothering anyone.
Right. Man. Well, speaking of social media, tell us where we can find you on social media.
I am at Exodus Girls on Twitter, and I guess that's pretty much it. All
right, awesome. Well, thank you for what you do. Thank you for joining me. Next up, we're going to be talking with Nick Morgan-Moore. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more Gaytheist Manifesto.
The staff of Secular Coalition for America lobbies U.S. Congress on issues of separation of church and state, and they've become a powerhouse for change in the United States government. You'll definitely want to subscribe to receive their email action alerts. These are updates for important issues and ones that you can get involved with directly. And hopefully, you'll consider making a contribution to the Secular Coalition for America to help them continue fighting for your equality. You can do it all at secular.org.
Here's an excerpt from The God Virus by Darrell W. Ray.
Every day, religion affects us in ways we may not realize. It makes your Uncle Ned spend hours praying for you. It gives your Baptist neighbor a reason to reject her own child who married a Catholic. It teaches your Pentecostal sister to spank her children to keep them from going to hell. It requires a Catholic priest to deny his sex drive. It causes people to give enormous amounts of money to religious organizations, and causes you to avoid talking to your cousin Jenny for fear she may try to convert you to Jehovah's Witnesses. Religion has both obvious and subtle influences on you and on society. This book explores the impact of religion on you and your world. It draws open the curtain of mystery and offers ways to understand and make informed decisions about religion. Have you ever wondered what makes religion so powerful? What makes people profess deep faith even as they act in ways that betray that faith? What makes people blind to the irrationalities of their own religion, yet see clearly the problems of other religions? How does it weave its way into our political system? If these and similar questions interest you, this book will help you understand its power in you, your family, and your culture.
The God Virus by Darrell W. Ray is available at atheistaudiobooks.com.
Welcome back to the Gaytheist Manifesto. Now we have comedian and bona fide Australian Nick Morganmore in the flesh. Oh, he said the thing. So, welcome to the country, I guess.
Yeah, no worries.
Are you? So, like, we talked about this earlier, and I always had this like super lofty impression of Australia, like it was some sort of liberal paradise. And of course, you and Jake have taught me otherwise. So, what do you make of this whole thing? Is this all like kind of par for the course for you, or is it like culture shock, or like
just in general? My first impression in general is that it's exactly the same, only slightly different and completely wrong.
Right.
That's sort of it. The urinals are wrong. When you go into the bathrooms, like okay, they're all at ankle height. Right? Like, you go in and it's, like, mounted to the wall, like, below your knees. And, like, when I pointed out to someone here, they're like, where else would it be? And I'm like, dick height. That's where you put a urinal. You put a urinal at dick height. That's just one example, but, like, everything is like that.
And I was fortunate enough to be present for your first experience driving on American roads today.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, you guys drive on the right side of the road, which is the wrong side of the road. Nobody indicates. You guys have four-way stop signs. Australia had one four-way stop sign in my city. We got rid of it because that's dumb. So, like, if anything, it should be like a four-way
So what do you do? So what do you do instead of a four-way stop?
You'd have like a two-way stop, and that's it. Like, you pick which road is the more busy road, and then that road has right-of-way, and you have stop signs the other ways. So that's sort of how you do that. Or give way. Just put give way signs everywhere. That way, whoever gets there first goes. And, you know, you slow down and you look, and if there's someone, you give way, and if there's not someone, you go. So, yeah, that's sort of how it'd work in Australia. Yeah. But no, it was a nice little drive this afternoon. It was right after I'd eaten some grits. First time I've ever eaten grits.
Yeah, for the first time, right?
I crashed. I ate a bowl of grits, and I had to sleep them off. It was ridiculous. Yeah, just the carbs and fat. It was like a sleeping pill.
And the mimosas.
Yes, yeah, that was nice too.
Yeah.
So that's nap food. That's what that is. Yeah, you can't eat that food and be like, yeah, now I'm going to be energetic. Like, even though it's 1,000 calories, it's 1,000 calories of sleep. Is how I'd describe it. Yeah.
So and obviously, you know, the theme for the show is the Vita Shining V event that we all attended.
Yes.
In which you did many things which we wouldn't broadcast on the show here. So, you know, while we're talking about that, what is that? Is that even a fight in Australia, or is that
Kind of. It depends. In Queensland, where I live, that's kind of like the Australian version of the Bible Belt, but it's not as extreme as here. So the only real place in Australia where there's anti-abortion billboards is in Queensland, but they're not even near an abortion clinic, and they're kind of a little bit ambiguous, I guess. Like, they're on the way to a city called Toowoomba. I just saw them when I was driving out there last time. I was like, wow, we have anti-abortion billboards. Wow. Whereas like here, they're directly across the road from
right, like pointing towards the abortion clinic.
And and they're just like, God doesn't want you to have an abortion. That's what it says. So like all the atheists are like, woo, like no problem. And all the liberal Christians are like, I'm pretty sure God's okay with it. But that's why I'm here. And it disgusts me because, it's so easy for, if somebody was religious, they could just take such an easy theological step and just look at it and go, the breath of life. As soon as you're out of a body and you're breathing, you got the breath of life in you. Then you're a person. Then you get all of the rights. But they're like, no, we want to say that life begins like when you're raped or when God arbitrarily chooses that, even before you even had sex with someone, that's a person somehow. And because they're not pro-life, they're anti-choice. That's the entirety of what they are.
Or pro-birth.
Exactly. They don't want people making decisions for themselves, and I'm disgusted by it. I'm here to help, and I'm here to. First gig that I did in Australia was a benefit for V to Shining V, and I was very happy to be able to support them in that regard. And I'll be doing a number of more gigs for a number more charities around the place. But I as Sandy said, I'm going to be out there distracting the protesters. That's my number one goal. So I'm going to be making this Jesus Choice character. I have a sign that says, "I didn't die on the cross so you could be an asshole." I have another one that just says simply, "I am not with these people," so that I can stand next to the protesters who are screaming at people dressed as Jesus with a sign that says that. All the liberal Christians should jump on board with that. Like, they are the ones who should be seriously offended by what these people are doing.
Right.
And, if I can use a little light blasphemy to distract the attention of these bigots away from attacking women on a very difficult day, then I will do it. Absolutely. So that's... Yeah,
seems like that'd be a good audience to test new material on too.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, especially with my material.
Exactly.
The thing is, my jokes are super dirty. Like, your listeners don't even know. Like, please YouTube me and you'll find out.
You need to search for Nick Morganborn on YouTube and just be warned.
Exactly. And my goal in comedy clubs is to bring people on board who otherwise wouldn't be. Tonight there was a few older ladies in the audience, grandmothers, and after the gig they told me that they loved it, and that's because my skill so far has been building up to bring people on board who wouldn't otherwise be on board. The exception to that is these bigots just wouldn't be able to. Their worldview and their constant desire and need to judge people based on their worldview is going to mean that they can't appreciate my comedy. And I'm very thankful for that, because I don't want to make those people laugh. I don't want to bring any joy into those people's lives. I want them to hear what I'm saying and to not be able to get out of it what I want other people to be able to get out of it. So I'm going to be out there being funny, and I really hope these people don't get the joke.
Yeah,
And I really hope that the other people who are there, the people who are going into the clinic and their escorts, and we'll put some videos on YouTube of these protesters, and then
I was going to say that definitely needs to be a YouTube video series.
Those are the people. I want the joke to land with some people and not with others, and I don't care. I would prefer... When I started comedy, some people were like, "Oh, you shouldn't tell dirty jokes. You should just be like, clean forever." And I'm like, "Oh, whatever." But I decided at the very beginning that I would prefer to be loved by some people and hated by others than in the middle and not really making an impact. And then I worked on bringing people on board who wouldn't otherwise be on board and showing them a different point of view. And that's what I do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the other reason you're here, and I was going to have Xandi pick up the third mic, but she's not here.
She ducked out of the room.
Xandi!
So
there she is.
So the other reason that I'm here...
the waveform does look like a penis. So, on happier subjects, the real reason that Nick is here in the United States is because he is now part of like one of the cutest couples in history, and so tell me your guys' story about how this whole thing went down.
Do you want to start or do I start?
We met on the Imaginary Friends show.
Yeah.
Dotcom podcast.
Yeah. The one true podcast on science, skepticism, and all of the stuff that Jake makes up. Yeah. So yeah, we met on a podcast. We were both guests, and immediately, as soon as I heard her speak, I realized that there was something really special about this person. And so
Did I say something about butt sex?
Maybe. I don't remember. Probably. You've got a good sense of humor. And
that was the moment he knew.
That was it. That was when I knew. And so I scoped out her stuff. I listened. She had a podcast at the time called Surviving... What was it?
Surviving Religion.
Yeah.
It died.
Yeah, it died. It
didn't survive.
It made about 15 episodes.
Religion's hard to survive.
But
right.
I listened to every one of these episodes because I wanted to hear her voice and hear her story. And I didn't know at the time. That is the
sweetest thing I've ever heard.
I didn't know at the time, but she'd also been stalking my Facebook and my Twitter, and she was the one who reached out and started talking to me, and we started Skyping, and our Skype sessions got longer and longer and longer. And
one night I was like, I'm kind of sleepy. Can you just keep talking? And then,
I love this story.
Hang up whenever I fall asleep. And I fell asleep and he didn't hang up. And he stayed online. And I was going through some things where I really didn't feel safe sleeping alone. Mm-hmm. And so he stayed. He left the Skype on and like checked on me and stuff. Or I don't know. Were you just watching me the whole time?
I was there.
It was like watching you like a...
Yes,
he was probably watching
I was being
anime.
fully creepy.
Yeah.
He probably had split screen watching anime and like
I totally did. Well, I needed to do stuff.
Well, right. I mean, you can just stare at somebody sleeping.
Exactly.
That's, yeah.
I will admit that I was starting to have some warm feelings, so I did do that for a few long periods at a time. Then I went back to
Later
watching.
on, he started having
things.
Warmer feelings,
Yeah.
and I'd wake up in the middle of the night and realize he was doing dirty, naughty things.
Oh, shut up. That only started after you started showing me dirty, naughty things.
I did.
So our relationship started over Skype, and so do you want to talk about the incident, how it started?
The internet? Al Gore invented it.
Yeah, that's right.
So you have Al Gore to thank for your relationship. Thanks, Al Gore.
Cheers, Al Gore.
Woo!
Yeah, so we started seeing each other like that, and our Skype sessions got longer and longer. I think our record, we were on Skype for like 72 or 80 hours, in one run because we just wouldn't hang up.
We don't. Sometimes we don't hang up, and like he'll go like do, because obviously I mean it's day and night difference.
Yeah.
Our time zones, and so he'll go do his whatever he's got to do during the day, which is like not much because nobody does comedy shows in the daytime. But he'll go and he'll like leave his laptop on, and then he'll come back and I'm still there and sleeping or whatever. And vice versa, I'll leave my laptop on and I'll leave when he goes to sleep. I'll go to work and I'll come home on my lunch break and say stuff that he probably hears in his dreams. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's how that happened. Fun fact, the day before he got here, Skype just went down. Like the entire Skype worldwide was just Skype was down. And it was like, well, I guess they realized they're not needed anymore.
We were like their number one users. And then we stopped using them because I was on the plane to come here and they crashed because they weren't being used anymore.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's the sweetest thing ever.
Yeah. So
and you guys are like the cutest couple in history.
We fell in love on a podcast.
I sent him a picture of my butt. I think that's what started it.
Yeah. It's a pretty great butt.
You know, if it's,
The heart wants what the heart wants. That's a butt. You're so much more than a butt.
Oh, thank you.
Honey,
that's so sweet of you to say.
Honey,
yeah.
I'm with you because you are the most amazing person who I've ever met. And you inspire me.
And you owe the sap jar.
Oh, God. I love you too. Well, Caity, Xandi, Nick, thank you, all three, for joining us on the show. Big hugs.
Aww.
So much awesome going on in the room. That, my friends, is going to do it for this episode of the Gaytheist Manifesto on Secular Media Network. I want to thank my guests again. You can find the show on Facebook at facebook.com/thegaytheistmanifesto. You can email us at thegaytheistmanifesto@gmail.com. I'm on Twitter at GaytheistCali, and you can find the show on Twitter at thegaytheists. Before we go, I want you to know that if you're lost, you're hurting, you're scared, if you feel like no one cares and no one understands, you need to know there's a community out here that loves you, cares for you, knows that you're capable of amazing things and that you are worthy of love. If you're struggling, please don't be afraid to reach out. Until next time, friends, this is the Gaytheist Manifesto.